before receiving a name or being aware that you were born, before you eating anything, you had a desire. When we are born, we cry. A baby being slapped by the doctor to cry. And if the baby doesn't cry, the doctor knows that there's something wrong. That cry is the first expression of our own will that every human being shows, because the cry is showing the following: I want to go back to the warmth, security of the womb of my mother. I don't recognize this cold environment. This first expression of our own will extends throughout our entire lives. It starts millions and billions of expressions of our own will throughout our lives. Yes, God gave us something called freedom of choice. Freedom to show your will. I want, I don't want, I will stay, I will go, I will give up, I will give in. God gave us this power to have our own will. And He doesn't interfere with our will. It's the great dilemma humans face. At times, people complain, where is God? Where is God? That He is not interfering with our suffering. Why is God allowing so many bad things, the suffering of innocent, and so on and so forth? But the same people who said that, when God tells them to live in a certain way, they refuse. They want God's interference in the moment of danger, in the evil moment. But apart from that, they don't want God's interference. They want to do whatever they want. So this is the greatest human dilemma, not to understand the power and greatness and sovereignty of your own will. Our will is so sovereign that Jesus, when teaching His disciples to pray, also teaching us, He taught us to pray and say, let your will be done. Which means, if I need to pray so that God's will may be done, it is because if I don't do it, if I don't ask, if I don't surrender my will to God, then His will not be done in my life. So that God's will may be done in my life, I must give up on my own will. I must surrender my will, give up on my rights, on what I feel, what I think is right, and surrender them to God and say, Lord, not as I will, but as you will. Such a great power. It is the greatest power that there is. It is so great that not even God does not interfere. He does not interfere in our power of choice. If you want to believe in the devil, you have the right to. If you want to say that God doesn't exist, you have the power to do that. You want to obey the will of God, you have the right to do that. God gives us the right to human beings to do whatever they want to. Now, humans are not free from the consequences of their choices. And this is what the Bible shows us. The Word of God is always showing us the danger of following your own will and the consequences of doing it. But it gives us the option to obey God's will. I will read Psalm 143 that says the following. There are many famous psalms. You will not hear this one. Usually you will not see people posting this one on their social media. Usually you see people posting, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want, or verses from Psalm 91, other famous psalms. But hardly you see this one. Psalm 143 verse 10 says, "Teach me to do your will, for you are my God." It's quite obvious, right? If he is my God, naturally, I'm saying that I believe that he's higher, wiser than I am. So I want to do his will and not mine. Your spirit is good, which means I must believe that the will of God manifested through his spirit and word and his teachings is good. The word teaches us that it's good, pleasing, and perfect. It will always be good to us. But how many times our will confronts God's will and vice versa, then we resist the will of God. And then we say, this is not what I want that. We insist on what we want, leaving the will of God on the side and hoping that the will of God is wrong or that we misunderstood everything and that the will of God is like ours. If you don't believe that the will of God is sovereign, greater and better for your life, in the moment of conflict, you will never desire to give up on yours. And that is why, at all times, we see people who call themselves Christians and that they believe in God doing whatever they want, what they think is right. I will do this because I want that. They don't stop to ask themselves, neither to ask God if what they decided to do is God's will. They don't stop to do that. They only stop when they think in their own understanding that what they want is best for them. The voice of their heart speaks louder and they don't care about God's will. I will do this because of that, and that's it. This is how should I obey the word of God that says, do not get involved, do not surrender yourself to someone, or don't go to bed with someone because they have not committed themselves with you. You haven't committed yourselves for life. Will you give your intimacy to that person who hasn't given their lives to you? Don't do it. But the person does not ask themselves that. When they think, when they feel, they go to bed with them. And later they suffer and they ask, why did my relationship not go well? Why do we mistreat each other? It's because they skipped God's will. You did not want to know God's will. You only desired to know that your body was craving for sex. This is all you wanted to know. Your body asking for pleasure, and you obeyed the will of your body and not God's will. Now you are reaping the consequences. So, when a person has the proposal before them of a business to make easy money that they know that involves scams, fraud, deceiving others, it involves things that are too good to be true. They get involved with it and they don't stop to ask, is this God's will? I'm putting all my savings and putting in the hands of someone who I don't know. When they are presented with this kind of proposal and they listen to their heart, their eyes start to shine with so much money before them. All that money shining, at the end of the tunnel, a pot of gold that they will find on the other side of the rainbow. They are all in that proposal, and later they learned that they fell into a scam. Then they ask themselves, why did God allow this to happen? and God is always to be blamed. Then they want to speak to God. But when they made that decision, they didn't ask themselves, they didn't consult God's Spirit. They didn't say this prayer from Psalm 143, teach me to do your will. They didn't believe that the will of God was good to them. They didn't believe. Then they fell, and now they are suffering. Friend, why is God to be blamed if you always are doing what you want, and only when things go wrong is when you seek Him? Why? It's God's mistake. Why don't you say this prayer instead of presenting a list of desires to God? Lord, I want this, this, and that. Instead, approach Him as the psalmist. Teach me to do your will. Guide me. Your Spirit is good. When are you going to learn to say this kind of prayer and to truly render, to truly sacrifice your will on the altar? Let your will be done, Lord, and not mine. When will you learn to do it? Let me tell you something. When you learn to do this, always, and sometimes we have to do this several times per day, and when you learn to do it, you will prove the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God for your life. And beyond that, you will deliver yourself from the danger of destruction of doing your will that often is deceitful. If today's video helped you and you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you may do so now. See you later.